A story and song from the Haunted Mansion was the original Souvenir vinyl promoting the attraction, a fully produced audio drama narrated by Uncle Theodore himself, Thurl Ravenscroft. It also came with a book. I haven't tracked down a physical copy myself, it wasn't reprinted nearly as often as the audio was re-released, but I found scans of it online. It looks like the book was basically just illustrations of the show scenes with description text that doesn't match the narration audio, so reading along with the record probably wouldn't work, but looking at the pictures while listening was supposed to give you a vague idea of what it's like moving through the mansion. So let's listen to the record while looking at the pictures.
Have you ever seen a haunted house?
Ooh, do I cut to Peter Graves in Airplane or Jonathan Frakes in Beyond Belief? What a choice.
The owners haven't been seen for years. No one really knows why.
Well, I assume they left because it was haunted.
There's a high vine-covered fence around the property. Is it there to keep somebody out? Or is it there to keep something inside?
Or is it strictly decorative to up the house's resale value?
One night not long ago, two teenagers were walking home from a date.
Oh god, is it grad night? This is a scary story.
It began to rain. Mike and Karen ran toward the old house, through the old iron gate, and onto the porch for protection. Protection? If only they had known.
Well, blame the parents for demanding that sex ed be cut from schools.
Oh, Mike, look at that rain come down. We'll never get home on time.
Sure we will.
Karen is voiced by Disneyland Records mainstay Robbie Lester, and Mike is famously voiced by Ron Howard, between Opie Taylor and Richie Cunningham. Of course, he's well cast as average American teen, but imagine what this would have been like with him as the narrator instead. Now the story of a haunted mansion who lost everything, and the happy haunts who had no choice but to follow you home. So the kids move through the sequences of the attraction. It's pretty much the stuff you see in the ride in the order you see it in the ride, but as this was recorded before the ride was finalized, there are a couple of relics of earlier ideas that didn't ever actually make it into the attraction. For instance, one of the unused ideas for the ghost host is canon here.
Good evening.
Who said that?
I think it came from that marble statue.
Welcome, foolish mortals, to the haunted mansion.
The ghost host is voiced by Disney Parks mainstay Pete Renaday, who's not bad, but they clearly didn't realize at the time how immortal Paul Frees's performance would become. I honestly think it would sound less weird hearing Thurl do the ghost host and Pete do the narration, but I don't make the decisions.
As Mike and Karen stepped into the room, the wall behind them slid closed.
Mike, we shouldn't have come in here. I'm scared.
I don't see a way out. There are no doors, not even a window.
Boy, I sure hope this doesn't offer me any chilling challenges.
Your trusting mortal eyes tell you that these walls are stretching. But logic says, no, 'tis mere hallucination.
The ghost host destroys the stretching room with facts and logic.
Your logic cannot deny that this chamber has no windows and no doors.
Yeah, that's already been established. Weren't you listening to Opie?
Which offers a rather logical challenge. To find a way out.
Did you just learn the word logic and you're still excited to work it into every sentence? I mean, you still use it more accurately than the winged ones.
Lightning flashed from above the room, illuminating the attic area. There seemed to be no roof. From the rafters, a corpse swayed, dangling from a taut rope.
Boy, this is much more intense than last time Ronnie saw a hanging body.
A black raven flew into the room and perched on the bookcase.
The carriageway out! He chose the carriageway out!
Oh yeah, that's another thing that was cut from the mansion before opening, the Raven talking. At one point in development, the Raven was going to have the ghost host narration. At another point, it was just going to contribute with mild commentary like this. So this is a relic from that time, before the actual version of the Raven, who just sits there, occasionally cawing, biding his time before he can prank the guy from Mystery Lodge.
Apparently, the restless spirit of an old nag has taken possession of that poor, wretched raven's mortal being. Be on your guard. It may want to better itself.
I'm supposed to be scared of a raven taking community college classes? Meanwhile, the first page of the book's description breezes through the stretching room and the portrait hallway, while the illustration shows neither. It just shows the raven and a character who is not mentioned in the text or the audio here. Mike and Karen didn't see an executioner opening the door, they opened it themselves. What's going on here? Who is this guy? I am way more intrigued by Executioner Doorman than I am by anyone with a hat box.
The hallway made a sharp turn into an eerie lit limbo of boundless mist and decay. The furnishings and walls were covered with cobwebs. A staircase seemed to be the only passageway out.
There's no doom buggies because this is a house and ride vehicles don't make narrative sense in a house, so the characters just walk through the house.
It's a coffin. Something's trying to get out.
You've disturbed it, yes! You'll be sorry for that!
Yeah, you're not supposed to annoy other park guests unless you're doing it for TikTok clout.
There, an unusual seance was in session.
We're about to participate in a seance. Madame Leota is assembling all the spirits.
So, Madame Leota is officially the first character in the ride to have their name canonically established.
Madame Leota, the medium who was chanting the plaintive incantations, was quite unique. She was truly a disembodied spirit, a mere talking head inside a misty crystal ball.
She is, of course, named after the face model, Leota Toombs, who's not involved in this record because, it's just audio. So the thing that canonizes naming her after half of the performance only features the other half of the performance.
Serpents and spiders, tail of a rat, call in the spirits wherever they're at.
Of course, there's no visual of Leota Toombs, but there is a visual of Madame Leota, and wow, that is an unflattering drawing of Leota. Maybe at this point in development there was a backstory where she drank from the wrong grail.
Several ghosts were playing on the chandelier over the massive dining table. Others were waltzing, while an organist played a haunting refrain.
Now, at no point do the kids notice that the organ looks a lot like Captain Nemo's, but, why would they? It's not like this ghost host would ever turn out to be Captain Nemo in Florida, in a defunct attraction.
Mike and Karen entered the door and came face to face with a ghost dressed as a bride. She was strangely illuminated, and her heart glowed red with each heartbeat. The room they were in was an unfinished attic. And as they turned to run out of the door, another ghostly manifestation appeared and blocked their way.
Yes, the true reason this is historically significant. For years, it was the official confirmation that the Hatbox Ghost was supposed to be in this ride. Now, it wasn't the confirmation that he ever actually was in the ride, because lots of things that didn't make it into the ride made it into the record. That had to be determined much later, but it proved that he was at least supposed to exist, leading to his own cult fandom within the Haunted Mansion cult fandom, within the Disney Parks cult fandom. Cult within cult within cult within cult within cult within cult within cult.
He was a cloaked figure with an evil, grinning face.
Evil, silly, I always get those mixed up.
A hatbox hung from his hand. With each beat of his bride's heart, his head disappeared from his body and appeared in the hatbox.
It is funny that the attic resident who actually stuck around doesn't make it into the illustration here, at least not in the scans I found, which I'm assuming are comprehensive, but what do I know? I'm doing a lot of eighth-hand research here.
We're trapped. There's no way out.
Hold the candles. I'll try to open this window. Come on, we're in luck. There's a balcony out here. There's some steps down at the far end.
Okay, so this version of the story doesn't cotton to the we fell out of the window interpretation. There's just stairs outside the attic. That's less exciting.
They passed an old caretaker holding a lantern, too frightened to speak.
You'd think the kids would at least try to speak to him, you know? I'd be pretty happy to see another living soul in their position, but maybe they're just antisocial. Then Thurl's speaking voice gives way to his singing voice.
His dog was cowering at his feet,
materialize and begin to vocalize. Grim ghosts come out to socialize.
We get a little description of some of the graveyard residents, but not all of them. There's just too many.
Behind the hearse on a hill, a group of ghosts were enjoying a bicycle ride through the tombstones. A huge masked executioner was singing a duet with a decapitated knight.
Oh, there's the executioner, in the part of the ride that actually has an executioner. The illustrations just put him in the exact opposite end of the ride for reasons.
There's that raven again.
And we kinda get hitchhiking ghost acknowledgement, at least the idea of them, but they're not really mentioned in the audio, even though they are showcased in illustration.
Beware, my friends! They may try to follow you home!
I feel like the people working on the two halves of this souvenir were not communicating with each other.
It looks like there's something up ahead.
That's a crypt. That's the one by the fence. It's the way out.
Okay, so the audio implies that Karen knows that's the way out because she recognizes the crypt from the entrance, but the book text makes it sound like the crypt is the exit.
This uninviting crypt would scare most people, but for us it is a welcoming sight. It is our escape from a living nightmare in the Haunted Mansion.
Which is more accurate to the ride, where you kind of exit through the crypt, but it makes less sense narratively.
Did you enjoy your visit?
And the ghost host leaves it on a spooky, but kind of uplifting note.
I told you would not be harmed. Thank you for spending some time with us. Come back again. Bring your friends, if they'll believe the story you tell. I have to go now. It's midnight. Pleasant dreams.
You've survived the Haunted Mansion and lived to tell the tale, but you'll be back. Will it be on your own terms? Only time will tell. So the record and the illustrations don't really go together that tightly, but individually they're each the gold standard of a souvenir memento from a theme park attraction. Aside from the elements that were changed before opening, it's a pretty straightforward, direct adaptation of the story of the ride. It just happens to two fictional teenagers instead of happening to you. It's the basic most way to adapt a Haunted Mansion story, and it set the standard for a lot of the adaptations to come.
So hurry back, we would like your company.